Hey everyone, this is Althea Vinagrasha from grade 12 HUMSS of section Purity. So in the past videos, the past reporters have discussed from lessons 1 up to 7. Greatly, in this video, we are going to tackle the lesson 8, which is the review of related literature. And here are its intended learning outcomes. After this lesson, you should be able to first to increase the number of English words you know. Second is to express worldviews freely using newly learned words. Third is to enumerate the purposes of review of related literature. Fourth is to familiarize with the review of related literature in a quantitative research. Fifth is to make a graphical presentation of a systematic review of related literature. Sixth is to differentiate meta-analysis from other literature review methods. Seventh is to compare and contrast these two referencing styles such as APA and MLA. Eighth is to document your research paper by using chosen referencing style properly. Lastly, the practice of ethical standards in writing your literature review results. Some of you might have asked of how really important the review of related literature, or the known as RRL, in a research paper. Well, let me tell you guys, RRL is a necessary component of a research paper regardless of the type, whether it is a qualitative research or a quantitative research, because it gives a great support and evidence to our research problem and the results you are going to have after conducting it. So, some of you also might have think that chapter 2 could be the easiest part of the research paper, since you're just going to look for relevant studies or literature to put in there. However, it might be true, but it wasn't written that easy. You should have a brief discussion of how it is connected to your research, or it is necessary to reflect or have time for your review of related literature.
What are some purposes of RRL? The first one, to find out the connection of your research to the current condition or situations of the world. So, this is how other pieces of writing help your own research to make it more valid and to make it reliable. The second one, to more about theories or concepts underlying your research and to learn from them with respect to your own research study. So when we talk about theories or concepts, these are ideas and theories which are not proven to be true but are accepted to be true. The third one, to discover the relation of your research with previous research studies. So it's very important that you state previous researches, because it can be an anchor to how your study would go and to how your research will be presented. The fourth one, to obtain information on the accuracy or relevance for your research question. So your research question will only be proven to be true and related and relevant is there are also other ideas and related literature and that can be connected and actually based with other researchers. The fifth one, to familiarize yourself with technical terms related to your research. There are times that you will encounter some difficult terms. RRL in qualitative research. Next, the different basic method of reviewing related literature, especially in quantitative research. So, there are two types of basic methods. One, traditional, and number two is systematic review. You just have to understand and remember, traditional is qualitative research and systematic is for quantitative research. So basically, you are going to use quantitative research because that is type of search that you are required to be for senior high school. Two basic methods of reviewing related literature. The first one, traditional, is qualitative research. Systematic is for quantitative research.
So there are two basic methods of reviewing related literature. First is we have the traditional, and second is we have the systematic review. But we should have to bear in mind that traditional is for qualitative research, while the systematic review is for quantitative research. So you might have asked, what is the difference of traditional review and systematic review? So, traditional review is a systematic review. A question-driven methodology is used by quantitative researchers who begin their research work by asking various questions. One big questions that states the main problem of the research and a set of sub-questions that deal with specific aspects of the research. On the other hand, systematic review is a qualitative research, likewise begins with research questions, but these are open-ended and subjective questions in contrast to quantitative questions that aim at obtaining exact, specific, and objective answers whose origin or sources are easy to trace. Systematic review of related literature happens through the following sequential steps. First is clarifying the research questions. You cannot proceed to systematic review if you don't have a clear understanding and a clear presentation of your research questions, and it is a really need for you to clarify and present the questions the way that it might be understandable to your readers. Second is planning the research based on your understanding of research questions. Before conducting any research and before writing any research, you have a plan to answer the entire paper that you are going to present or that you are writing is actual a blueprint of a plan of your research. Third is the search for literature. It is where the RL might comes into the picture. Fourth is listing the criteria for considering the values of written works. Fifth, evaluating the quality of previous research studies. You don't need to skip any studies that you find in the internet, but you have also to read it and know it is relation to your research. Sixth is to summarizing the various forms of knowledge collected. Obtaining the results of the review of related literature by means of systematic review that takes into a step-by-step method is a scientific way of conducting a re-examination of reading materials that are close connection with your research. Adopting systematic review of related literature prevents you from being biased in dealing with the varied form of literature. The adherence of systematic review of scientific method or its basis to scientific method makes it the appropriate RRL method for quantitative research, that likewise method of looking into the truthfulness of something. So at this juncture, let me share to you on what I have discovered from the internet on how to easily write an RRL completely just by following the 4 steps or 4 parts. So first is we have the survey. Survey is where we read different resources about our study. Next is we have the synthesis. Synthesis is where we establish the relevance of the materials that we are going to use if they are genuinely related or relevant to the research that we are writing. Third is we have the analysis. Analysis is where the identification of gaps or the limitation of your study. Lastly, we have the presentation. Presentation is where we present and organize your references. So now I am going to discuss the structure of an RRL. So first structure is we have the introduction, and the introduction is where we cite and present our study. Second is the main body. Main body is where we summarize the synthesized sources of your study. Lastly, we have the conclusion. The main function of the conclusion of the paper is to state the main argument. It also reminds the reader of the strength of your main argument and reiterates the most important evidence supporting those arguments. So now I am going to discuss about what is meta-analysis in a quantitative research. So, meta-analysis is a kind of review of related literature in which you re-examine and combine results of two or more statistical studies for coming out with a grand total to indicate stronger effects of the research outcome. Putting the results together and making them appear as one result work to strengthen whatever impact that the independent variable has on the dependent variable. Meta-analysis helps in guaranteeing the precision of the measuring method used in a quantitative research. However, this merging of statistical results is not applicable to all quantitative research studies. You resort to meta-analysis only if the statistics that you intend to combine come from studies having several similarities, like they are comparable in terms of research questions, research designs, treatment, measuring technique, and measurable outcomes. Similar in many ways, these studies that are apt for combination purposes are called homogeneous studies. Conversely, with a number of differences from other studies, they are called heterogeneous studies, and are exempted from this type of systematic review of related literature called meta-analysis. The qualitative approach of narrative synthesis, which is a systematic review using written verbal language to explain or describe the test result, is the appropriate RRL method for heterogeneous studies. The meta-analysis is a systematic review prevails strongly in the field of medicine, where researchers must conduct studies to yield medicines that, supported by sufficient evidence, are capable of reaching their certainty level.
Intake, citation, and referencing styles. Other people's ideas incorporated in central section or main body of your paper are to be cited or referred to the true owners of borrowed ideas. Referring to authors within the main body of the paper is called citation or in-text citation. At the end of the paper, it is called bibliography or references. In-text citation and referencing style. Example of APA referencing style. The two most commonly used referencing style are the MLA or Modern Language Association and APA or American Psychological Association. The following table shows you how these two referencing styles differ in some aspects. The first one, citation or in-text citation. Here are the example of citation or in-text citation. The second one, bibliography or references. Here are the example of bibliography or references. One author, two authors, three authors, three or more authors, anonymous author. There are also other categories that APA reference style is applicable. These are the following: editor, translator, compiler, editor, translator, compiler with an author, organization, association, or corporation as author, no assertable publication facts, materials through computer. Materials through computers. The first one, Signed article in a magazine. The second one. Unsigned article in a magazine. The third one. Article in journal. The fourth one. Article in newspaper. The fifth one. An editorial. The sixth one. Online books. And the last one. CDRM or diskette.
So what is ethical standards in literature review writing? Nowadays, with the advent of modern technology causing the emergence of varied electronic communication devices and online sources of information, collecting data happens easily and speedily. Through computer technology with its powerful internet, you became more exposed to extensive amount of knowledge that is so easy to lure you into practicing the copy and paste technique of obtaining ideas for your research paper. Unmindful of prestigious ways of writing academically, there is a danger that you may fall into this dishonest way of reviewing and writing related literature. The ethical way of literature writing tells you to acknowledge the owner's borrowed ideas and put quotation marks around copied words from books or articles intentionally or negligently disregarding the use of quotation marks around words copied exactly is not only unethical, but an indication to gross plagiarism as well. You must be aware of the fact that with the surfacing of online sources of information, software to detect plagiarism from online sources has likewise become more available in academic institutions. Proper citation and referencing is your way of freeing yourself from plagiarism and of avoiding people from casting doubts on your honesty and integrity as a researcher. That would be all for this video. Once again, I am Althea Zendi Divinogracia from grade 12 HUMSS of section Purity. Thank you for watching.